Hey everybody, welcome back to Jitterbug Home Services. Have you ever replaced a shower in a camper? Oh, you either? Okay, cool. No, I've never done that. So now we're going to replace a shower in a camper. Here we go. Basically, name of the game is if you see a screw, take the screw out. The other part that I'm looking at that I don't tend to tell people very much just because I don't think about it is you look for overlaps. So this whole piece was overlapping these rails. These rails are overlapping the walls. The walls are overlapping the bottom. So that's the order I have to take it out in. It's also good to know that's the order it has to go back in. Opposite that. So the floor's got to go in, then the walls, then the rails, then the surround. So anyways, anywhere I see a screw, like there, and there, and there, I take the screw out. The other thing for the surround, when I start to take that out, or the walls I guess you could say, when I start to take that out, I look for these, which probably have screws behind them. There's also caulking right here, silicone. They'll have to cut, but anyways, those have screws behind them. Probably. They're supposed to. We'll see what happens.
Hi.
Open. Thank you. Leave it open. Thank you.
Now what is it?
Alright, so I got the walls out. There's the walls, the surround. That's where they were. I was wrong about those covering screws. These things right here, covering screws, they don't cover screws. They cover some kind of other fastener method. So yeah, you ever been wrong before? Happens to me all the time. So anyways, all I've got left now, I think, is the floor. I have to figure out how it's connected to the plumbing. Hopefully it's just screwed in like normal. Drain right here should be screwed into the plumbing in there, but I have to take screws out as well and get in there and see. So that's next. These are my feed lines, obviously, hot and cold. Specs, not my favorite in the world. This stuff isn't done exactly correctly, I don't believe, because it leaks. But my main issue that I'm dealing with right now is that crack. There, you can see that. The reason that crack is there is there's actually a pipe right here. So when it was stepped on and it hit that pipe, which is an immovable object, it broke the floor. So I'm probably going to have to put some kind of shims or something under this to keep that from happening again. Or rework the plumbing, because I'm not sure the plumbing's connected correctly. So we'll see what happens. Anyways, moving on to the floor. Alright, so I mentioned possible problems. Problems happen. It's the way it is. Anyways, I got the floor out, kind of. I haven't pulled it out yet, but you can see it's away from the wall. I have a piece of drain out because it was still connected because my drain broke. That's supposed to unscrew. There's supposed to be 2 to 4 bars down in there. When I was unscrewing it, they snapped off and fell in the drain. It happens. Anyways, here's a part of the drain, this is the P-trap, that I took off from putting my hand down through the access and pulling up on the floor while I unscrewed it from the drain. So anyways, moving on. Alright, I've got the floor of the shower out. Fun fact, this is not the first time this has been done. Number 1. Number 2, it's not done correctly. Number 3, if this is how it came from the dealership at first, the engineering or thought process behind how this plumbing works is way wrong, because there's just zero possibility of this thing draining properly anyways. And there's a really easy fix, and I don't know why they didn't do it that way. So here's the plumbing that comes from the drain for the shower. So a hole is cut in the floor here. P-trap comes from the drain of the shower down and up, up to connect to the drain here. The drain then comes up, which is probably just barely below the surface of the shower, which is problem number 1. Comes along this, goes to here, connects into the drain from the sink down there. I don't have any lights, sorry. And then it continues on. Probably eventually getting to draining down into the tank. What's confusing me is that I also have a drain right here that comes from the back sink, and that's the sink that connects, or is kind of like a hose off sink. Believe that's what that's for. If not, then it's some kind of vent, but I think it's just a drain for the sink right there, for the back, and it could possibly swing around too. I'm trying to reach my hand up in here. Maybe that's a vent. If that's a vent, then we're okay. But there's no true slope on this plumbing, so I have no idea how it drains anyways. The other issue is the problem I had run into was the floor, like I had said, right about here, was cracked, because when you step down on it, you actually hit this piece of plumbing. This piece of plumbing right here was held up by this little piece that someone thought was a great idea to stick under right here, which sure, it gives you a little bit of slope, but it also raises this above the level of this. Easy fix for that, keep that in there or something similar to brace it. I don't like this because it's not actually holding onto it. I'd actually like to build something to hold on to that. Anyways, keep something under there to brace it, add layer to that so that it raises it above the pipe level, and that way your floor doesn't hit the pipe. What I should also do is put a strap over top of this when I do put another piece on, so that I'm not putting pressure on the pipe, I'm putting pressure on this, the stand. The stand is crap. It's obviously got water damage on it right here, so I may rebuild the whole thing anyways. This is obviously wet right here, so that all needs to be dried out and cleaned. The problem with that being wet is then it leads to the bottom of the wall here and the bottom of the wall here. You can see the water damage, and it causes that problem. The other issue that I found that isn't a massive problem, but I don't like it, is they had this like that over the pipe to like hide it. There's a lot better ways for visuals to hide that, and also it's wood, and when you have a leak it soaks up water, which creates mold and problems. so that's crap. So I'm gonna rebuild that and figure something else out with that. But yeah, so that's where I'm at. So I'm gonna do a little bit of reworking. Obviously, I have to go get a new drain for the bottom of the new shower floor. I'm gonna check the shower floor and make sure it doesn't come with a drain anyways. But if it doesn't come with a drain, I gotta have to go get a new drain. But I'm also gonna figure out how to do this better so that it's more permanent. Doesn't cause problems later. Might actually put some foam down so that when you step on the shower floor, you're not stepping on a hard surface. You actually have a little bit of cushion there, because that'll be more comfortable as well. And well, if we're gonna rebuild stuff, might as well make it nice. So I'll continue. I'll give you updates as I can. I'm not running the camera for the whole thing because a lot of it is me just tearing stuff apart and then sitting here confused and staring at it for a while until I figure it out. Alright, I went and bought a new drain. Putting a drain on, the directions say to just screw it on. But I don't like that, because I like to make it waterproof. So I use that. That goes on the threads to make sure she can talk, it's fine. That the threads are waterproof. Nothing gets through. It's like Teflon tape, but never dry. Drain, gasket. To the top. Place. Gasket. Screw. Locking nut. Bottom. Gasket. Alright. Can you help me?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's it. Okay.
Daddy's good, baby.
What happened?
We're putting a drain in a shower.
Me hold.
Yes, hold it. Thank you. Finger tight.
Finger tight.
That's right, finger tight. Alright, drain's in. Now we're gonna build a new platform. Alright, now here is where I need to fix the platform. Obviously the platform is water damaged. You can see that right here. It's more places obviously. But the other part is that it's not tall enough. This will give you an idea. You see that pipe? That pipe is taller than the platform. That's not good. So anyways, we're gonna use the same platform as a template to make a new platform. This will give you an idea how I figure out how tall I need to go. So if I put this down, pull out my pencil on top, straight, and make a line. So that'll tell me, when this is sitting flat, how much higher I have to go. That line right there, that's pretty extreme. So that's how far off they were on their measurement. And to figure that out, they're about 7/8 of an inch too low on their platform, which is why we had a crack. So we're going to build a platform that's about an inch higher. That'll leave me 1/8 of an inch because I'm going to put flooring covering down too, floor padding down on top of it to make it softer, and that'll give me a little bit more space so that we don't hit that pipe and we don't crack the new floor. Alright, so making a template is literally as easy as it sounds. I'm going to line up the 2 straight corners on this scrap piece of plywood I had sitting around. And if anybody's wondering, I don't throw pretty much anything away. That's for a reason, because I'm probably going to be able to use it at some point. Take my pencil, trace out what they already made. Now what they made was crap, but the design at least kind of worked. So their little cutout for the plumbing, is kind of okay. A little bit big, a little bit bigger than I would prefer, but if I need to make any adjustments later, I can always make less of a hole and fill that in. No big deal. I can attach to it. It's pretty simple to do that. Anyways, make my cuts. So you can see here with my pencil, I drew out, there's a straight line, got that round cutout, straight line. So I'm gonna make that cutout, probably use my circular and my router to make those. I might router the edges to make them more rounded, just to make it softer in case the floor does touch the platform ever. It'll make it a softer touch so it won't crack anything, it won't cause damage unless it has severe pressure put to it. But I'm gonna go ahead and make those cuts real quick and move on from there. I'm probably gonna use 4x4 as the bracing, but the reason I'm gonna use 4x4 is because I have 4x4 sitting around, so I might as well use what I have sitting around. Alright, their little platform is gonna be good for me to cut on. Put it so that the line is off of the platform that they had, off of my stand. And we're gonna make some straight cuts. And then I'll come back and do my curve cuts. One of the tricks of the trade when you're using tools a lot is when you have a tool that you're gonna use a ton, buy the best tool you can buy. Best tool you can afford. That's a very nice tool. It's a Makita rear handle, which is nice, circular saw. Some of my other videos, you guys have actually seen me flip this thing over, put shims in the trigger, and use it as a table saw. No, that's not OSHA approved. It's not okay to do that. I still do it. It works great. Anyways, here's a cut. Start this one in the middle just because I don't feel like going on the other side. Alright, all I've got left is that curve. I'm gonna go grab one more tool. We'll make that curve. Alright, I'm just gonna use a router. Look how far the battery in it. A router for this cut.
No!
It's gonna be loud. Okay, go ahead. Go past me.
No, I!
It will be on in a minute. Go past me. Will you please go past me? Walk. Walk. It's a race. Run, 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 run. Go. Well, I will in a minute. Alright, let's try that again. I don't actually have any router bits for cutting like that, so my mistake for thinking I could make that work. Anyways, let's use my big ass jigsaw. Kidding, it's a sawzall. Let's use a sawzall. Beautiful. Yeah. Oh, good enough for government work. That'll do. Alright, as much as it wasn't a help before, the router said it really wanted to be used. So we're going to go ahead and use her anyways. I'm just going to round off the edges of this, like I said before, so that it, if the shower floor does touch it for any reason whatsoever, it at least won't be a sharp edge that it's going to touch, and so it probably won't break it quite as fast. There we go. Obviously, I'm not being super professional with all this since I'm sitting on it while I'm routering it, but I'm at my house right now, and well, nobody's judging me here, so we're good. And if you want to judge me, you can feel free to come to my house and do so. This looks safe. It doesn't look perfect, and that's kind of on purpose, because literally it's just a stand. It doesn't have to look perfect. Anyway, there. So I'm going to round this edge because I think I rounded the wrong edge. Throw a clear coat on her and she's pretty. I'm not putting clear coat on. It's a stand. Don't forget, after all this, it's just a stand. Alright, now I have to measure this one. Forward thickness is 1/2 inch. Put this one on a surface to tell me height. Height of the old one is 5 1/4 inches. So I had mentioned that the old one was 7/8 too short, and I was going to put the new one 1 inch taller. So that means if that's 5 1/4 inches, the new one has to be 6 1/4 inches. If that piece of plywood is 1/2 inch, then the 4x4s that I have to cut that I'm going to attach to this, to the new one, sorry, to brace it, would be, I'm going for 6 1/2, right? No, 6 1/4. That would be 5 3/4 long. Connect to 1/2 inch, 5 3/4 plus 1/2 inch would be 6 1/4. I would put this 5 1/4, 6 1/4. That would make it exactly where I need to make it. That's what we're gonna do next. Alright, I cut 5 pieces. The reason I cut 5 is I was thinking 1 for each corner. I'll explain that in a second. And 1 in the middle. Like I said, they're 4x4s. They're very sturdy. I'm gonna check it again, make sure I'm in the right direction. Alright, that's the bottom. So, corner. That's a corner. I grab random exterior screws. The trick with the screws to not make a split is to screw it backwards a little bit and then screw it in forward. That way when you're close to the edge and you're going into the end, it's not going to split it. Backwards, backwards, backwards. Get it sunk a little bit and forward. There, no splits. Alright, the reason I used exterior screws is because even though this is going inside, it is in a wet environment. And if it gets wet, I don't want them to rest. I have a couple extra screws that I'm just sinking into the centers because why not? I don't feel like taking them back inside. There we go. Alright, that's all together. As far as sturdiness goes, pretty sturdy. I wouldn't mind putting one more right here. I think I'm going to. But before I do that, before I waste too much time, I'm going to measure it. So, put it on a solid platform, flat platform, whatever. Measure. My measurement comes up to 6 1/4, about an 1/8 over. About an 1/8 over 6 1/4, so 6 3/8. That's good. That'll clear my plumbing this time. Be a lot better than what they had going on where it didn't even clear the plumbing. Now the issue I may run into is that the shower floor may sit off of the floor a little bit. If that happens, it's okay. I will put some kind of shim underneath the edges of the shower floor so that it doesn't bow the wrong direction on the edges. And I will also put trim around it. And they sell PVC trim now these days. And so I'll put PVC trim around it, caulked on with silicone so that it hides any gapping there is. If you ever take the baseboards off of your walls on your house, you'll see that there's a gap on the bottom of the walls because drywall does not go down to the floor. It never does. It's never supposed to. So it's the same situation. We're going to hide any gap that there may be now. But this thing should be solid enough that when you step into the shower, you're not going to step down onto the plumbing and you're not going to break the bottom of the shower floor. So next step, I'm going to throw one more piece in there right in the middle, just so that no matter what kind of weight goes on it, it's supported. And then I'm going to go get underlay and a staple gun, and we're going to staple some underlay onto this thing so it's padded. Alright, so here's the platform. Here's, I don't know if you can see that, the bracing right here. Yeah, I guess you can. Obviously, we're not hitting the piping, which is great. I don't like that the pipe's semi-twisted that way, but it was like that before. So like I said before, on my threaded parts, I put the, this is called pipe dope, is what we call it in the industry. Plumber's pipe dope, whatever. But it's pipe joint compound. This is Great White brand, it's just good stuff. I had mentioned before it's like Teflon tape, except it's liquid and it never dries, and it keeps a watertight seal. And so we're going to put this on the threads right here. When you're doing a job that's plumbing and it leaks right there, and this stuff doesn't work, a lot of people end up gluing it, which is not correct, but it works usually. It's just that it'll never come off again if you glue it. So this is definitely the preferred method. A lot of people don't see the point in using this.
Dad, I need popsicle.
I heard you, sweetheart. I can't get you a popsicle right now, okay?
Yeah.
I'm working right now.
Okay.
So a lot of people suggest either not to use this on these types of fittings. I don't see how it hurts anything. I've never had any problems with it. And then some people, when they put pipe dope on, they also put Teflon tape, which seems like overkill, but better safe than sorry, I guess. More material instead of less. I don't see a problem with doing that either. I've just never done it, and I've never had a need for it. So I really don't like Teflon tape, but of course, for certain applications, it's necessary, and it absolutely does work. So throw this into its little cutout on the floor. We're going to screw this on. Once this is completely put together, then I will snug that down all the way. And then the other thing that I'm going to do is put my pipe dope on the back side of that for the drain. Anything ever gone wrong on one of your jobs? Yeah, so the drain didn't line up. This is my fix. I cut the pipe, cut this piece off, and I know it looks like I just cut it off to put another piece on, but I actually cut some length off of both of those. Let's see, here's more that I cut off, and so I backed it up a little bit right here, put the same bend in it, came around, and I'm putting a fun little P-trap. I just spun this all the way around. Might have to cut a hole in the floor. I'm going to try not to. If I don't have to, that's going to get expanding foam at some point, and it just to fill it up. And yeah, it looks like it lines up, so I'm going to glue it up and we're going to go from there. Alright, now we're going to go make a cutout on the side of this brand new shower pan so that we can fit it over top of the pipe right there. Not something I enjoy doing. I'm not happy that I have to cut the new shower pan, but I do want it to fit, so whatever. We're going to do it anyways. I'm going to use a grinder with a cut everything blade because it'll hopefully melt it more than cut it, and hopefully not shake it. I know, lots of hopefullys there. We'll see what happens. Alright, so since we're cutting for a pipe to go, I'm going to use a pipe to draw while I'm cutting. So I hopefully don't cut too much, and I can make it semi-close to the shape that it's supposed to be cut in, and we'll hope for the best. That might work. Alright, so now I'm gonna dry fit this onto where it goes. And what I mean by dry fit is I'm gonna put the pan on there without putting the drain back into it, because we're just gonna install this drain over and over if I don't. So anyways, I'm gonna put the pan down where it goes, make sure everything fits, everything matches up, then I'll take it back off, install the drain into it again, put it back on, and install the drain plumbing onto the drain. So hopefully this works. We will see what happens. If you're wondering why I'm moving so slow, it's because I have to move through this mess of crap, which is the shower, but it's in the way because I'm in a camper. I mentioned that, right? In a camper? And I've never done this before? Yeah, we're in a camper. I've never done this before. This is exciting. The good news is I have rebuilt a shower before. I've rebuilt many showers before. So understanding how a shower works is very helpful in the process of understanding how this shower itself is supposed to work. That should possibly work. Glad I left this pipe loose too, because I can move it around a little bit. You can't see me right now, I'm sorry. There. Now you can kind of sort of see what I'm doing. So I'm looking at where the walls meet up, where everything meets up. I'm gonna have to put, usually for a shower, a shower inside of a house, you would put roofing nails onto the top lip of this to hold it down. Obviously, because it's a camper, I'm not gonna put roofing nails in it. What I was looking at was, I have my piping here, but it doesn't exactly line up. But I can reach through my little access hole right here, and I can I can move the plumbing, and so I can actually line this up perfectly centered. So it looks like I will be able to screw that onto the drain once I put the drain in. So the whole thing sits off of the floor a little bit, which I had mentioned is a possibility. It's not a massive problem. I'll put, I mean, I may not even put anything in there, but I'll probably put, yeah, because of that. So I'll probably put something under the edges just to hold it steady, so that there's no issues. And then I'll end up trimming out the whole thing. The whole problem that I was dealing with was the plumbing under the shower was too tall, and the shower was hitting it. The shower floor was hitting it. Right now I have what feels like about 3/4 of an inch, so I don't have the issue of a possibility of the plumbing breaking through the shower floor. There's nothing that's going to break through that shower floor now, so we should be good. Yeah, I'll have to put some pieces under these edges, but I can cut pieces for that, and that's not a problem. I'll, after I get everything installed, I can measure that and put pieces in, basically like shims, but it's going to be almost like a little bit more framing. I'll probably use the plywood strips for that, and that way it'll hold it up just fine. And then I can cover it with like baseboard. They sell PVC baseboard now, which is bendable, and they also have like a rubberized baseboard as well. But PVC or rubber baseboard will be perfect for that, so that we can get that all connected, or all covered up, and you won't even notice. Nobody will notice that there's a big ass gap underneath. So it's about the same amount of a gap as what I had said when if you were to take your baseboard off your walls. Exact same gap. As far as size, it's about that much of a gap, which to my head looks huge, but there, it's about half a nose of gap. So no big deal. That'll be easy to cover up. So let me go use the restroom, and then I'll come back and we'll continue on. All right, I just got back from the store. Let's see if this does anything. I needed an inch. I got 4, so I might have to rework the plumbing again. I don't know. We'll figure that out right now. Bring this back up. Alright, so we already have the pipe thread on there. Pipe dope, sorry. Put this one on. That connection well. Wires are in here somewhere to tighten that up better. I also had a drain tool, there it is. So I'll actually use the drain tool. Get that tighter. There we go. The drain tool, for anybody that's wondering, is this. They're really, really helpful, although I've snapped 2 of them in my life. They're just galvanized, so they snap kind of easy, in my opinion, but I've met people that said they couldn't snap them. So anyways, this is a drain. Weird, going through puberty or something. This is a drain, okay? This is a drain tool. So if you can't get it to work any other way, it'll fit in like that to hold the drain steady. That's how I've snapped them. If you're lucky, it will fit right over top, and it holds it in place to be able to turn it. You can loosen it or tighten it with this tool. That's what it's for. If you're wondering, this one's Cobalt brand. You can get them anywhere. Any big box store, any plumbing store, they have them. So it's a really handy tool to have. Alright, so next connection, of course, is to put this back together down here. Alright, so we're putting this back on. Take this off for now. I might have to cut a hole in my floor to put this all together because it got me way too much extra. I also might have to take the bracing out that I made for it None of that matters if I can get this to work. The main thing is getting this to work, because we need the drain to be connected. If only I could screw this on correctly. My dad used to call me Wingnut. Funny story. You know when you're younger and your dad has you hold the flashlight while he works on the car or whatever? So anyways, when I got my first car was a SUV. It was a GMC Jimmy, 1985 GMC Jimmy. The carburetor and the air cleaner had a little wing nut on top. I couldn't for the life of me figure out how to get that wing nut on, ever. It just never worked. So my dad nicknamed me Wingnut, kind of making fun of me, but it was funny. I was working with him recently. I don't remember what we were doing, but I was trying to get a nut or something on a bolt, and I told him, by the way, you know when you used to call me Wingnut? And it's funnier now because I'm a handyman for a living. He said, yeah. And I said, well, I still have difficulties with wingnuts. I don't know why. Not that it matters. I just, for some reason, my hands don't want to be able to put on a wingnut. So, yep, it's funny to me. Alright, connection's good. So the only difference really here, so what I did is I screwed in on this side where the drain screws on, I screwed onto the drain, so then you have two slip connections with a slip joint. These get glued together, but now this is raised way up. You can see it's higher than the platform, which is perfectly fine because it's the drain, except that it also comes down pretty low on the drain side. So we're gonna put this down. Actually, first I'm gonna take this bracing out of the drain, so it has room to move a little bit. I'll have to cut that, I think. I'm gonna put it down and see what it looks like, and then I'll pick it back up when I have to cut the floor. I'm just gonna do that quickly with a Sawzall, and of course try not to cut too far down, although I do have room to cut. So you always want to make sure you're not going to cut through anything important, you know, wires, pipes, gray water tank, anything like that. All right, yeah, that's sitting up pretty high. So I think you can see the connection in there. Obviously it's not fully into its slip connection, which is fine. It'll go into that once I glue it all, but it's also obviously sitting up just far too high for that to make any sense. If I were to push it down right now, there, that's on its slip connection the way it's supposed to be, but it's still sitting up too high on the floor, so it needs to be pushed down some. Alright, so I'm going to get a Sawzall and I'm going to cut the floor so that this piping can drop down into the floor a little bit to allow for that to make sense. The main thing that I was dealing with was, I don't know if you can see in here, but I'll turn on a flashlight. So the problem that I was dealing with, and probably one of the problems with this entire situation with the drain here, is that the drain was lower than this pipe, which is the drain pipe. It goes through the P-trap, and then the drain is supposed to be taller than the pipe itself. If the drain's lower than the pipe, then any water that's in there is going to sit on the very top of the drain. It's okay for water to be inside of here, the P-trap, because that keeps bugs and stuff out and keeps the smells out, which is what the vent's for. But if there's water up to it, it's not okay. So basically the drain needs to be higher than that. You can see the same thing with siphoning barrels and stuff like that. When you have two barrels connected together, they'll always be at the same level. If one is raised up higher than the other one, then the one that's raised up higher will have a lower level in it. But they will always have an earth level between the two. So, yeah. Alright, well, I'm going to get a Sawzall and I'm going to cut this floor, and then we'll see if we can make a good dry connection. Once I have a good dry connection, we'll take that slip joint out and we'll prime and glue those and put it back together permanently. That way I can restart, or I can start rebuilding everything, putting everything back together like it's supposed to be. All right. Alright, I didn't record me cutting the floor because who really cares about watching a sawzall cut a floor? It's also not pretty because I don't care. Nobody's ever going to see it. Doesn't matter. All the scraps can literally go down in there. I'll probably fill it with expanding foam at some point in my life just to hold it all steady. But for now, I have a hole there. I took the bracing out of the pipe so the pipe has movement. I'm going to set the floor down, the shower floor down, shower pan down. I'm getting tired if anybody's wondering. Some of you know and some of you don't. I get up at 2 o'clock every morning for my day job, my morning job, and then I do a handyman afterwards. Alright, there we go. So slip connections in. Yeah, that's pretty solid. I think that'll do it. So I'll show you the connection underneath, and then I'm going to take it all apart again and glue it all, prime it all and glue it all, and then put it back together. Yeah, that's a beautiful connection. Alright, so let me show you guys so you can see it. So this is underneath. You can see this is threaded onto the drain. This is threaded onto the drain pipe. This is the slip connection, and that's a pretty decent connection. It has a little bit of gap right here, but honestly, I can push it down and get rid of that gap. Once it has the lubrication of the glue on it, it'll push down really easy. So I'm going to pull this apart and make sure that my threaded connections are tight with a tool, and then I'm going to put it back to, or I'm going to prime and glue and put everything back together. I'm going to prime and glue both at the same time, so I'm probably not going to video that, or if I do, I'm not going to video it well because I have to move a little bit quickly. And then the only issue with priming and gluing all at once is that when you glue, you're supposed to give it a quarter turn, so hopefully I can get the pipe itself to turn and not these threaded connections, which is why I'm going to tighten these down first, because I'd like to be able to get those. But both my hands are going to be in this access panel so that I can get this to turn a little bit to give it the best possibility of it fitting together and locking together, gluing together properly. So there it is. I'll leave the video running when I start doing the glue part, just so you can see how I do it, how fast I have to work. But like I said, I'm probably not going to give you a very good video of it just because it's faster work than normal. Alright, I don't know how well you can see this, but it is what it is. So this is primer. That's just to clean it and give the glue something to bond to. Primer goes on every surface that's going to be glued. So try to get it as even as possible. It's supposed to dry before you put glue on. Glue is actually, you're supposed to put it on and wait a couple of minutes before you put the connections together. I don't know if anybody actually ever waits. It doesn't seem to matter too much, except that when you put the connections together, it makes it harder to turn them, because it starts to set up almost immediately. But anyways, that's what the directions say. But hey, who reads directions? Alright, glue. I think I'm using clear glue, which is great because I have a tendency of making a mess with glue, and I'd really rather it doesn't seem as well as some, blue or whatever that makes a massive mess and gets all over the place. Fun fact, if you ever cut yourself so bad that it won't stop bleeding at all, PVC glue is fantastic to fix your cut. Just put a whole bunch of that on there. It actually doesn't sting. I thought it was going to when I had to do it, but it doesn't sting. And you seal up your cut, you're good to go. The only issue with it is if you then get super confident that your cut is just perfect all of a sudden, which is rarely true, and you peel that PVC glue off, it's just like peeling a piece of your skin off, and it opens back up. So it's fantastic for fixing a wound as long as you leave it on forever, or close to. Basically leave it on until it's healed and you'll probably be fine. The other part about gluing PVC is you're supposed to hold it tight, like pressed together, for at least 10 seconds. I usually count, but I started talking to you guys, so I don't know what my count is right now. So I'm just going to hold it here for a while until my muscles start shaking, and then I'll let it go. It should be fine. I tried to spin it. It didn't exactly spin, so I'll just give it more pressure. Also, when I was trying to make a better connection on my drain, I managed to snap my drain. Not in a terrible way, just all those little things inside of it that, you know, catch hair and stuff, and then hold on to the hair forever. I snapped like 2 of those off. So, whatever. It's an open drain now. I will deal with the problems if they arise. It's my job. Alright, so that's probably long enough. Yep, it's glued. Here's my wonderfully snap drain. See, I got a couple of little ones still sticking out. No, okay, I only have one now. The other one's down in the jar now. It'll come out eventually. You can't see that, it's dark. So my connection underneath now. There, it's a glued connection now for the drain. So, yeah, it worked. Now the drain is higher than the drain line. Perfect. I could probably stick something up underneath the drain line. I don't know if I care. And somebody just entered the camper, so I'm gonna say bye-bye for now. Hey y'all, so if you remember, I have to fill a gap that's underneath the shower pan, between the shower pan and the floor, because of the platform that I built that raised it a little bit higher. Raised it higher because of the plumbing, and then we had that whole situation with the plumbing of needing to cut into the floor again. Anyways, I have to fill that gap. The gap is 3/4 in some spots, 1 inch in other spots, so I'm just going to go with 1 inch because it's not going to hurt anything to go a little bit bigger. 1/4 inch is really not a big deal. Anyways, I'm going to use plywood to do that. It's about 60 inches. My plywood is 1/2 inch plywood, which means 120 inches of 1/2 inch strips. And I'm going to do about 1/2 inch by inch, I'm thinking. And that's 1/2 inch thickness, inch wide. And so 120 inches of that, stack them for a full inch. And then I have that inch to play with for width and figure out how I need to put them in. And for the measurements, just for your idea of it, it's about 25 inches on the front for length, and then the 2 sides are 17.5 inches. 17.5 times 2, of course, is 35, plus 25 is 60. Yeah. And so anyways, I'm going to cut these strips, and so I'm going to show you on the table saw, because I actually pulled my table saw out this time, how you measure that, how you cut it. So of course I'm going to take off safety features to show you, but I'll probably put them back on just because I don't feel like cutting my fingers off today. So here it is. So to make the cut for the size that I need, I'm going to pull this off. It's the blade guard, just so you can see how you measure it. And so I had mentioned before, with measuring, you have to account for the thickness of the blade. That blade right there is about 1/8 inch thick. I'll show you here so you can see it. So if I put it on the 1 inch mark, if you could see, get that 1 inch mark on one side, there you go. And so you can see the blade comes up to 1/8 of an inch. So I have to account for the 1/8 of an inch, but the easiest way to do this on the table saw is to pull this over my fence to 1 inch from that side. So I measure to line up. The fence is 1 inch, there you go, from the blade. And it's from the left side of the blade. Now, of course, if you look at it like this, it doesn't look exactly straight. So I have to measure up here as well from the blade so that I know on both sides of the blade it's 1 inch. As long as those are two are lined up, then it should be fine. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. All right, so that's 1 inch. And over here, inch. Bring this in here, a little bit off. So we're just gonna scoot it in just a touch, right about there. 1 inch, 1 inch. You check your measurements over and over, and then I'm gonna tighten this down some. Lock that fence on. The blade height is a bit tall. I'm actually gonna pull that down just so I'm not completely shredding this piece of wood. You don't need the blade height to be so high all the time. Mostly you want it to just come right on top of the piece of wood, come right over top of the piece of wood that you're working with. That's about 1 inch. So this measurement, obviously the thickness isn't the most important thing in the world, but it's not a bad idea to, you know, make sure it's straight so you don't look like a goof when you do stuff. We'll see if this fence or if this shield will go on here. It's kind of close. If not, it's really not a big deal. Yep, it goes on there and it's not quite locked. There it goes. There it goes. So that's locked down there. That'll protect me. Oh, you know what? How about screw safety today? Because I'd like to be able to push on that side if I need to. Well, we'll leave it here for now. If it gets in the way of my push rod, which is this, then I'll obviously take the safety precaution off. If you're new to cutting wood, it matters. If you do this all the time, try not to cut your finger off and you'll probably be okay. Alright, I'm gonna crank it up and get some strips cut. That was a little rough, but has a lot to do with it was raining all day yesterday, and the wood's quite wet, so it didn't exactly want to slide on my saw. Not a big deal. Anyways, I got my wood cut. I'm gonna measure it because I never measured it in the first place. So all I did was cut 6 pieces because, well, I'm gonna need 6 pieces, but I need them to be different lengths. So 34.5. So they're all over the size I need, which is perfect. So now I can cut them down to size. I'm first gonna dry fit them. And by dry fit, all I really need to do is put 2 ends under the shower floor and make sure that it's pretty close on clearance. and then I can dry fit, and I might router cut a line or something like that in them, just to make sure. Alright, so I checked the thickness of these plywood pieces to see if they fit under the shower pan. They fit perfect. Still a little loose in some areas, but that's not really a big deal. I'll get that handled. It just needs a little pressure pushing down on it, and we'll deal with that. What I am going to do is cut slots into the tops of one of each set. Then I'm going to use liquid nails and clamp these to hold them together until that dries up, so that they turn into one piece. That way they're 1 inch thick. And then after they're glued up, I will cut them down to size, and I can put them in, install them where they need to go, and they will hold up the outside edge of the shower pan. It's not a super load bearing area, but it doesn't hurt to, hit every little spot I can to make sure it's perfect, and not going to get anything stuck underneath there. So I'm going to go ahead and show you guys how I am going to cut these down to size, or cut into the top of these pieces, and that way I'll be able to slide the edge of the shower pan into it. So super unsafe, but whatever, happens. You'll see it. Alright, so back to the table saw. So first thing is I'm going to take my blade guard off. I can actually show you on this side so that you can see the blade while I do this. Make sure you can see. Mostly. There we go. Alright. The fence doesn't matter right now. It will when I start to do this. For the moment I get it out of my way. What I want is I'm going to cut a little indent into each piece of these, and what I need to do is make sure that the top of the blade doesn't come up any higher than this. I really don't want it very high at all, so I set the piece of wood next to it for measurements, and then I'm going to lower the blade into the saw so that it's just barely touching the wood, and that'll give me that little bit that I need just to catch the lip of the shower pan. So that, let me measure it on the other side in case I have any swelling in these boards. Oh, there's a lot of swelling in that one. Let's see, this one didn't have any swelling. We'll measure it on, yeah it does. We'll measure it on this one. That's less swelling. So there. And so for you to see, I don't know if you can see that. So the edge of the blade is right here, and it's just barely grazing that piece of plywood. And so what that's gonna do is just give me a nice little line into the plywood. Now, like I said, I only need to put this on one of each set, and I'd want to put it basically just barely inside of the outside edge of the plywood. And so to do that, I bring my fence over. Turn this back down so you can see it. Alright, so you can see the blade. So I bring my fence back over, and so since I just want to graze it just inside the lip, get this out of the way. Exactly. That ought to do it. And you can put it right about there. So it's about an 1/8 to a 1/16 of an inch inside of the lip of the wood. See right there what I'm looking at? Just barely inside of the edge of the wood. And that way there's an edge on both sides to hold the lip of the shower pan. Now, since I have that in place, I take my tape measure, just let that move, and I'm going to measure from the blade to the fence. It doesn't matter what the measurement is, but I do need to figure out where it's at right now so I can measure the other side, make sure it's the same. So that's just at 5/8 on that side. So let's make sure it's 5/8 on this side. Yep. Obviously I'm not touching much, it's only 1 or 2 teeth that's going to graze that. But lock that into place. That way it's all straight. And then I'll crank this on and we'll just put these little indents into the pieces of wood. Hey, I was wrong. Ever been wrong? Happens to be all the time. I didn't think about the part of the saw that stops the wood. It's where it splits. I don't know what it's called. It's this little thingy. I didn't think about that. So anyways, I'm gonna go get my circular saw. We're going to put the same depth on it. And I'm going to be just as unsafe as possible and run it right down my circular saw. I think you guys have seen me in past videos flip my circular over to act as a table saw at jobs. So, you know, I didn't cut my finger off the first time. Maybe I won't this time either. We'll see. Alright, well, if this isn't the most redneck thing you've ever seen, then, well, you've never seen any kind of redneckery. But I'm going to go ahead and see if this works. And I hope I don't cut myself in the process. We'll see what happens. That's a circular saw. There's something less than its trigger to keep it on. This is off a vacuum, and I just got clamps holding everything together. Oh, and a screwdriver, of course, holding the blade down. Don't try some of the things I do at home, even though I'm home and I'm trying them. Anyways, worked pretty well. That little black line right there, there was a little bit of burning, but not a big deal. Anyways, that's my groove. I cut all the way. That should work perfect. That was completely on purpose. That was what I wanted to do. So I got my groove cut. 1, 2, and 3. One kind of missed a little bit at that end, but that doesn't matter. I'll be cutting that end off. So yeah, that worked. Yay! Here's the setup, so you can see. I put a screwdriver in here for the blade guard, you know, get rid of one safety component. I put my push bar for my table saw in the trigger to keep it on, and I clamped one of the pieces of plywood down over top of a vacuum part that was measured out from the blade about 5/8 of an inch so that I could keep my wood in line for the cutting. The blade depth is extremely low, so that just a couple of the teeth, maybe 2 teeth, could actually cut into the board. So, yep. Anyways, it worked. It doesn't matter. I didn't cut any fingers off. Everything's good. Moving on. Alright, so now we're going to glue these pieces of wood together. I'm going to clamp all of them together just because, well, I don't have a ton of clamps. And that way I can glue them all straight and super tight. Obviously I'm only gluing 2 and then 2 and then 2, but then I'm going to put them all together so I can clamp them. While that's setting up, I'll be able to go put the expanding foam in where the plumbing is and install a piece into the drain, because I snapped the drain, if you remember from earlier. And I went and got a piece that fits in there. It's kind of like a hair catcher. Not that I care about a hair catcher too much, because I don't think there's any screens leading to the gray water tank, but I do care about my daughter's foot getting caught in the drain, or her twisting her ankle or something like that. And this piece, this hair catcher that I have, actually covers up the drain a little bit so that it's just a flat surface. So for now I'm going to glue this, clamp it, and then we'll move on to the next thing. With this glue you don't have to work too fast. I'm using Liquid Nails Heavy Duty. Liquid Nails is pretty impressive stuff if you ever had the chance. I had to take some industrial shelving off of a warehouse floor one time, and after a couple of pieces that I noticed didn't have any screws or nails into it, but it was one of the most impossible things to take off the floor. I finally asked the guy what he used to mount his shelving, and he said he used liquid nails. So it was basically liquid nails on the bottom of 2x4s that he stuck down to concrete, and that stuff had the most extreme hold I have ever seen. Pretty cool stuff. So liquid nails, luckily these days, is a lot cheaper than it used to be. Caulking, any type of caulking tends to go for close to 10 bucks a tube. Liquid nails, at least this stuff, was only like 4 or 5 bucks at Lowe's. So cheap and strong. I don't care to really spread this, just because when I clamp it down it's going to spread itself out just fine. Wood is obviously a pretty porous surface. It'll soak in a little bit, but as far as brushing it on, it's really, this isn't, we're not going for perfection on this. It's not anything that's going to be visible, but I do want it to hold together. Alright, it's all glued and clamped. Obviously there's some spots like right here where you can see the glue came out. There's nothing wrong with that. It's not going to hurt anything. If I cared a ton, I could always spread it, or I could sand it after it dries. I don't care. This is going underneath the shower. It doesn't matter at all. So I'm going to leave it clamped for a while. I'll check it periodically to make sure that it's gluing up. Probably what I'll actually do is touch the glue that squeezed out to see how hard that gets. It's always a good indicator on how well it's gluing on the inside. For now I'm going to go in and put expanding foam into the hole that was cut in the floor underneath the shower, and then check on my wife because she's painting inside the camper. Alright, while I'm waiting on my glue to dry on the plywood strips, I'm going to put expanding foam into the hole in the floor. This is your least preferred stuff to buy. Yellow expanding foam has a tendency of attracting bugs, as far as I've noticed, ants and roaches. But I'm on a budget and this was cheap. So obviously I'm on a budget. Everything I've been using for this whole build so far, other than the shower pan, has been just crap that lays around my house, just trash. So yeah. So anyways, I'm gonna put this expanding foam in here. I'll try to get you guys down there to be able to see as I do it. It's really not an intricate process. You just blast foam into it and try not to put too much because it's gonna expand. After I do that, I'm gonna work on this drain, see if I can get that covered, and then I'll go check the plywood to see if it's dry. So here we go. One of the things that you'll find if you do this kind of work a lot is that you get a heck of a leg workout from all the squatting that you do. And I've got some days, especially my painting days, when I actually the next day had trouble walking just because it's up and down and up and down and up and down over and over and over. So it's pretty funny. Oh, never knew that. Okay. I was reading directions on the expanding foam. It told me a pretty cool trick that I never knew existed. Alright, so obviously you can't see in there because it's dark, so I'm going to put my cell phone in there with my light turned on so that you can see what I'm doing. Best angle for this. That's a decent angle. Alright, let's try not to get anything expanding foam on my cell phone. Expanding foam, you want to hold it upside down to put it in. So the main thing to remember with expanding foam is it has a tendency of pushing on whatever surface you put it in. So when you use, when you're doing doors and windows, you have to use door and window expanding foam so that it doesn't change the square of your door or your window.
Me hide.
Hi baby, give me a second.
No, me hide.
Can you hold on for a minute?
No, Mama hide.
Okay, in a minute.
No.
Thank you. If you put it into a door or window, this stuff, it'll change the square, so it'll actually push in on the frame, and you won't be able to open or close your window or your door anymore. So for this stuff, it expands. It says it'll fill a gap 1 inch. It'll fill a whole lot more than that, depending on how much you put in. But if you put it in an area that has a big opening, like what I just did, I only filled what it was cut, it won't push up on the floor. It won't push up on the plumbing. Instead, it's going to grow around all that stuff. If it does push up on something and you need it back down, if you can get access to it especially, take a knife after it's dry and just start chopping away at it. If you need to clean it up, acetone does pretty good at cleaning it up. They also sell a spray that will clean up expanding foam. It's acetone in a spray. So yeah, we're going to let this dry. I'm going to go get the drain accessory and see if we can get that drain piece put in. Here's a more close-up look so you can see what I did, because I know my hand was in the way for a lot of that. So I filled in that hole. Now obviously the drain is down in there. That's okay. It's going to come around the drain and it'll help to hold this whole thing in place. Alright, it's on.
Hi. Pay to. Okay, bye.
Are you helping?
Yes.
Tell them what you're doing.
Help Daddy Emmett.
Amen. Alright. Thank you.
Daddy, he'll eat.
Okay.
He'll eat.
Okay, thank you.
Me too.
Alright, so I have the drain piece, hair catcher, whatever. This is it. The thing to remember with these, whenever you're at a store or if you buy one and you don't want it to look like you open it, pull it out, pull every cardboard out. You can take everything out of it and pretty easily put everything back into it if you need to return it again. So it looks like that will somewhat fit. We'll see how well. If it needs to be cut down, I could always cut it down a little bit to make sure it fits better. I got to take that piece out of it though, which shouldn't be too difficult. I already snapped the rest of this thing apart, so I might as well just snap that piece off. So this piece is supposed to fit down in there. Now, if that doesn't fit, I don't care. My main concern is that this piece fits in there. And we'll see how exactly that's supposed to fit. I kind of have a feeling the drain's supposed to go in first. And then this piece is supposed to fit over top. What I might do though, because of what this is just glue this piece down. I can always grind that off and glue this piece down, and then I'll put this piece on over top, and that way, you know, it's good enough. I'm just trying to get rid of this massive gaping hole in the floor, just because I'm sorry, you can't see that. Just because my daughter's gonna have a problem. So, she might get her toes or something stuck in there, and I don't want her to. So, we'll see how I get that in there. I'll figure out some way to get that down in there. Put that over top, and it should be just fine. So, we'll see how it goes. I'm not gonna show you guys just because this is gonna be tedious and stupid, and I'm probably not gonna do it right. And it doesn't matter if you do it right or not. I'm not doing this in a way that it's supposed to be used. I'm using it for my own purposes. Alright, so the liquid nail isn't dry yet. The shower drain I'm going to use silicone for. I don't want to open silicone until I need silicone for everything else. So I'll deal with that later. But because none of that can be done yet, I'm putting in the walls, because the walls really don't matter for this part. The only struggle with the walls is the plumbing. But it looks like the plumbing's going to match up okay. It'll be a tight fit, but it'll work. And so anyways, this is how I'm putting walls in. I put on some Gorilla brand double-sided tape. Not that it matters, but it was originally taped to the walls and also put in with what was push anchors. I don't have those push anchors. I couldn't find those push anchors, so I'm using drywall screws and anchors, toggle anchors. These are a different brand than what I usually use, but they still work good. I don't normally use them only because it's just a different brand than what I'm used to. The way these ones work, I already put the anchors in the walls. Anyways, the way these ones work is they fold the wings in. This is what they look like. So you fold the wings like this, fold it in, put it in the wall, it pops back open. Once you start screwing in, that part right there gets hit by a screw, and it tightens the entire thing up this direction against the wall. Screws are a bit longer than I was hoping for because it's a camper, so I'm just being mindful as I'm screwing them in. But I have 2 more screws to put in this. Then I'll connect the plumbing up, put the shower head and handle back on, and then probably put the glass enclosure back on before I have a chance to get around to putting the lip on the bottom, and then siliconing everything to make sure it's all watertight, and of course the drain too. Because the platform's here, none of the stuff I'm doing now is going to affect the lip that I still have to cover or anything like that. So I have the perfect opportunity to just get this thing back together. And like I had said on previous jobs, reassembly is literally the opposite of disassembly. Same exact order, you put everything back on. As far as the screws and fasteners that were used before, if they were just random screws, it doesn't matter. Use whatever works. Larger for the holes that are already made, just so that they have a grip, and better fasteners is always better. So I'll let you watch me do some of this, but I'm going to continue on. Alright, so I connected the plumbing right there. Obviously I had to screw onto the back of those, hot on the left, cold on the right. Then I connected, of course, the shower head all the way up, and I screwed that piece in that holds the shower head. Next to go on is the glass surround, which is this, with the door. When I put that on, it will hold stuff like this. It gets pushed in, it'll hold that in place. It'll also put the pressure on everything to hold it all steady. After that's on, I've been checking my liquid nails. Hopefully that'll be dry in time, and then I can get that pulled in, put that under the edge piece where it needs it down here, And then I can start with my silicone to put silicone on the drain to keep that on. Apparently I meant crap out of this side, but whatever. I'll silicone the drain, and then I'll silicone all of my edges here so that no water gets in. The edges on the outside, the edges where the door connects, and the top up there will get silicone. And that way no water will infiltrate anything where it's not supposed to. So yeah, continue on. Here we go. What, baby?
Hi.
In a minute, honey. So these will get screwed on first to here, and then the shower walls will go over top of these. These are the size of the screws that I'm using. Here. Cocked. Anyways, right here. Compare it to what I believe was taken out. Is those. So if you want to put them side by side to see the comparison, that's the difference. It doesn't matter because the glass enclosure goes on the outside of these metal strips, the braces. So these screws, not being flathead, being panhead, is not going to affect that at all because they're going to stick out a little bit, but it doesn't matter. So it's going to hold it a lot better than how it's held before. Of course, it's never fun to drop a screw, but luckily that little lip right there gives me access to grab it. So, anytime you see people holding a screw in their mouth, other than it being a really convenient place to hold a screw, it seems dirty, it actually acts as a lubricant to put a screw in. So there is actually a purpose to it. As disgusting as it seems to be, it's not. It's okay. A little bit of water spit on the threads doesn't hurt anything. But you can see there's no movement there, and also it's holding the shower wall against the bathroom wall, so holds it nice and tight. It's dual purpose. So now the glass walls go up, the enclosure goes up. That'll get screwed on from the inside. I have to use, well, they originally used self-tapping screws, which are metal self-tappers. They screw themselves in, they carve a hole in the metal before the threads hit the hole, and that way they screw themselves in, so they're called self-tappers. Anyways, they use self-tappers. I'm probably going to do the same, except that my self-tappers are a lot longer than they had, which means I'm going to want to go in at an angle, so I screw through the metal and into the wall as more support to hold it steady. Self-tapping screw, this head right here, or this tip right here, if you can see that, what that does is it cuts the metal when it's going into the metal, and so it spins like this, and those little teeth cut away at the metal to create a small hole, but it's thinner than the threads, and so when it goes in through that hole, then the threads catch and it can screw in, but it creates its own hole into metal. You don't need to pre-drill with these, you could just screw those right in. Alright, funny story. So when I originally was putting this shower pan in, I had made the comment that I think I had the wrong size. It's about an inch or so too large. I don't know how we messed that up, but whatever, we messed it up. So anyways, and we also didn't have a ton of options when we were ordering a new shower pan. So we ordered it, it's about an inch too large, no big deal, we'll just have a bigger shower floor. The issue it caused before was the plumbing didn't connect up. Still, not a big deal. I cut the floor, I cut the plumbing, I reran the plumbing, and the plumbing lined up then. Now that I'm putting the glass enclosure on, I'm finding another problem. which I didn't think about, and I probably should have. But of course, there's going to be another problem. So the problem is that the glass enclosure has a gap. So yeah, it's fun. Still not a massive problem, except that there could be some splash out. I don't care. Like I said, this is my camper, not a customer's camper, so it's not the biggest deal in the world. And I can fix that, kind of, or at least cover it, kind of. But the issue that this is causing is that the door, this is the door opening. And so if the door doesn't connect correctly, and it's rubbing a little bit right there, it's pretty tight right there. Not a huge issue, but you're gonna get locked inside. So anyways, the door frame has to come up. Now you guys, if you've watched any of my previous videos, especially when I work on doors, and I use these for, these two tools for house doors, like front doors, entry doors. Anyways, they're jacks. They're little miniature jacks. They are really good for cabinetry. They're really good for doors. And now, hopefully, they're going to be halfway decent for a camper shower door, because I need to lift this just the slightest bit to screw it in on top. I went and got some of the screws from when this was previously on, when I took it apart, because they're shorter, but they're also self-tappers. And so what's going to happen is I had to put this railing back on. This is, let's see if I can get this up again. There you go. That's a railing that goes on top, connects all the pieces together. So I put this back on, and the good news is once I get this jacked back up, this door frame, I can screw through the back side of this, and you can see it's already trying to move right there. And so it already had screws in it. There's one, there's the other. And because I'm using the self-tappers that were previously on this enclosure, they were previously used in these ones where I'm putting the longer screws in. I'm actually going to just line this whole thing right up here with the smaller self-tappers to hold this door frame up higher so that the door can open and close properly, because it doesn't have any support from below, because, you know, like I said, wrong size. So again, working within what I have, making it work because I can, and this is part of my job on being creative. I then come up here, because it is a door frame and it is flimsy, and I just press up on here to make sure that it's getting pressed all the way up to where it needs to be. And so I'm going to keep doing this over and over until I get it up to where I want it. Super huge screws, and obviously the wall is a lot smaller than that, or the railing I'm going into. What I'm actually doing is going in straight and then turning my screwdriver or my drill to go into the wall, and so I'll show you that right now. So that cuts into it. So I back that out then as much as I can, because I have my pilot hole now. I turn a hard angle, and that's so that it doesn't go to the other side, but I do want it to go into the wall. There we go. So that'll hold it. Yeah, that's not going to move off the wall, ever. Beautiful. So the shower's back together. Obviously, I still have a couple of touch-up things to do. The bottom parts, access panel, the drain, caulk everything. But so everybody can see, it's back together. It works beautifully. I have gaps all over the place. I don't care. I'll fill the gaps somehow if I need to. It's not that they really matter, but it wouldn't be a bad idea to fill the gaps since, you know, it's the wrong size. Maybe one day I'll smarten up or have some couple of dollars sitting around, and I'll buy a new enclosure that actually fits my shower pan, and I'll have a shower that's 1.5 inches bigger. That would not hurt my feelings. We'll see what happens. Maybe life will change. Anyways, thanks everybody for watching. I hope you learned something, and I hope you enjoyed it. Subscribe, share with your friends. If you want to know how to do anything else, feel free to ask. I'm happy to tear something else apart in my house and teach you guys how to do it.